Back with round two of the Sunday Scrum. Susan Riley, John Ibbitson, and Julie Van Dusen join us from Ottawa. It's likely well more than a year until the Conservatives choose a new leader, but that job opening made headlines this week thanks to one intriguing possible candidate, businessman Kevin O'Leary. The former member of CBC's Dragon's Den didn't commit to a run, but it certainly sounds like he's considering it. Have a listen.
I thought at some point someone's going to say to me, if you could be such a critic, why don't you do better? Why don't you try it? And I thought to myself, maybe I should. I look at Canada as a huge opportunity.
John, so give us your take on a possible leadership run by Kevin O'Leary.
Well, first of all, I don't know if he speaks French.
He does not. John, he in fact does not speak French, and he's even said he grew up. I think he was born in Montreal, and we're actually going to get into this. Why don't we just get into the French thing right away? Okay. So,
well, because in fact, I want to talk about something else.
Okay. Okay.
So first of all, he doesn't speak French apparently. Secondly, his offer to Rachel Notley of $1 million if she would quit is one of the most gratuitously insulting things I've ever heard in my life in Canadian politics. And third and most important, this man is obviously trying to channel Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is doing remarkably well in his bid for the Republican nomination because there is an enormous body of disaffected, white, mostly men, mostly blue collar, who feel that they have been cut out of the political process by both the Democratic and Republican parties. If Kevin O'Leary thinks that he can lead the Conservative Party and then lead it to victory, it's because he believes there's a similar body of white, middle-class, blue-collar, mostly men, who believe that they've been cut out of the Canadian political process. I don't think it's true, and I think if he tries, he'll fail miserably.
Susan?
I agree. He's kind of a dollar store Donald, you know, first of all. He's just not at the same level, either in his wealth or his accomplishments. He inconveniently has said Boston is my home. I mean, he lives in Boston part of the time. But his real challenge would be convincing Conservatives, not Canadians. I mean, a panel such as ours is, you know, I personally would, I would never vote for somebody like that. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a right to try. But I think John's right. I think the Conservative Party as it is right now isn't looking for that kind of a loudmouth. I think they're looking for a more subtle, nuanced, and marketable leader. And I don't think it's going to be him.
And a unilingual loudmouth. All right, so let's talk about that, Julie, because O'Leary, he has actually said that he does not speak French, and he told the radio show everything is political, and he doesn't think that's an issue. So, Julie, as far as I understand from what he said about the fact that he doesn't speak French, he doesn't even have any intention on learning how to speak French. You know, there are other leaders that are from the English-speaking parts of the country that decide to go to Quebec for the summer and try and learn their French. Stephen Harper didn't speak French very well, but he certainly became fluent over the years. So, in the year 2015, can you imagine a prime minister of this country not being able to speak French?
Well, he's so dead in the water. I mean, he doesn't have a hope in hell. He really doesn't. Not to say he wouldn't be interesting, not to say he's not a smart man, not to say he hasn't made a lot of money. But we've seen people jump in races before with money, and it made it, you know, it added a certain pizzazz. Belinda Stronach, I can think of her, for example. But John Crosby, decades ago, the problem of not speaking French was a problem for him. So I don't know where he's been, maybe too much time in Boston, that he doesn't understand that you cannot lead a federal party unless you speak both official languages. But the fact that he doesn't speak French, you know, go and talk to Lisa Raitt. I mean, she's learning French because she knows that you have to be able to not only speak and understand it, but be able to scrum in it, or no one's going to take you seriously. Peter MacKay tried to learn it years ago, Brian Tobin. Get with the program. If you want to lead this country, you have to speak both languages.
We're not talking about serving coffee at Tim Hortons in Esterhazy, Saskatchewan, right? We're talking about being the prime minister of the country.
Exactly.
Susan Riley, what do you think? Do you think that it's odd? I'm leading you on here. Do you think that it's odd that somebody would even consider trying to run for a major party without being able to speak one of the two official languages?
No, it's not odd. It's Kevin O'Leary. I mean, this has been a huge kind of marketing success for his brand. People who never heard of him before, people who were glad to see the back of him when he left Dragon's Den, are reminded of his existence and his very simplistic, high-volume views on the economy. He's had a platform. We're amplifying it. We shouldn't be. And there's no way he's going to become the next leader. And furthermore, yeah, I agree. I think you have to be able to speak French.
John, if you'll know better than me because you've been covering these things a little bit longer. I'm not trying to age you there, but I think that in the last election, when we saw, including Elizabeth May, I think we saw the most bilingual leaders this country has ever seen in terms of all of them having a pretty strong command of French. Can you imagine a scenario today where there would be a leader of a major political party that couldn't speak it?
Well, no. Although in a way, it's a bit regrettable. Yes, you have to be bilingual. It's a bilingual country. But on the other hand, only 18% of Canadians are bilingual. So we've just disqualified 82% of this country from ever becoming prime minister. That said, the more important thing than the language disqualification is, I believe, the sense of nation disqualification. There are some people, and you might find them on some political panels on television shows sometimes, who believe that the Conservative Party is a bunch of white rural rednecks who, and the sort of runt of the old WASP Canada, WASP rural Canada, and that Kevin O'Leary is appealing to them. It fits with their notion of what the Conservative Party is. But that's not what the Conservative Party is anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. Until the last election, this was the only Conservative Party in the developed world that relied heavily on the vote of immigrants in order to come to power. So it's this very antediluvian notion of what a Conservative Party is that I think he represents and that I find distressing about his candidacy, even more than the fact that he's not bilingual.
All right, John, you mentioned it, the whole spat with Rachel Notley. So the leadership speculation followed another O'Leary headline earlier in the week. The businessman offered to invest $1 million in Canadian oil, but the money comes with one big condition. Here's Kevin O'Leary on CBC's Power and Politics discussing Alberta Oil and the province's Premier, Rachel Notley.
I'm happy to invest money in Canada. Give me something to invest in. Give me the rules. Show me the playing field. Tell me what the royalty rates are going to be. Don't keep delaying it. This is not the sign of good leadership. That's the problem, and that's why I'm calling and asking her to do the right thing gracefully. Do what's good for Canadians. Step down.
Okay, Susan, you're shaking your head.
Well, really, to blame Rachel Notley for the collapse in the world price of oil, for the manipulations of OPEC, it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Stephen Harper, I think it was 2 weeks after Rachel Notley was elected, described her government as a disaster. Kevin Leary's given her a couple more months before, bringing down the guillotine. It's ludicrous, it's ideological, it's not fact-based, and it's not serious.
But John, does O'Leary perhaps have a point in the sense of maybe this is not the time to raise corporate taxes, maybe this is not the time to raise royalties on the oil and gas sector?
No. But there are two different things here. It is possible and even reasonable in good faith to question the policies of the NDP government in Alberta, to say that they are attacking the oil industry at a time when it is most weak, and that they are putting environmental concerns over jobs for Alberta workers. You can make that case. What you cannot do is, as I said, gratuitously insult the government of the day by saying, you're not fit to govern, you should step down, and if you do, I'll throw $1 million into your little economy. Once again, though, I think the bigger problem is that we're giving Kevin O'Leary far more oxygen than this little man deserves.
All right, Premier Notley was quick to respond to O'Leary's criticism. Here's her reaction.
Well, the last time a group of wealthy businessmen tried to tell Alberta voters how to vote, I ended up becoming Premier. So if now we've got a Toronto wealthy businessman who wants to tell Alberta voters how to vote, I say bring it on.
There you go. So, Julie, what did you make of that response from the Premier? And if you're saying that Kevin O'Leary is dead in the water, why are we talking about it?
Well, I think he's dead in the water because of some of the things we've discussed, that he doesn't speak French and he has no history with the party. It doesn't mean that he couldn't go into the race and be really interesting and throw some ideas in. He's not Donald Trump. He said that, I'm inclusive when it comes to minorities and immigrants. He's not a Republican-style conservative. I wasn't surprised at Rachel Notley's answer. I'm wondering why Kevin O'Leary, where was he in 2008 when Stephen Harper, or after the 2008, I guess, after the election, when Stephen Harper was hit with that recession? Like, why didn't he blame that on him? He didn't. These are the circumstances, the card she's been dealt with. Not to say he shouldn't be in the race. I mean, Ron Ambrose has had a discussion with him. I remember years ago, Tom Long, a Conservative candidate for the Canadian Alliance, you know, he was pumped up as the next be-all and the end-all, Michael Ignatieff, the next be-all and the end-all. It's always interesting to see people in the race with their ideas. I just don't see that. I mean, I can't predict it, but just the fact that he doesn't speak French, I think that disqualifies him.
Okay.